Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to learn how to make this cute bunny cake topper with floating balloon. So first we're going to start off with some pink fondant. We're going to roll it into an oval shape and then we're going to flatten one side by pressing it against the desk that you're working on and then just pinching around the bottom. This is going to give us quite a nice clean sharp edge when it's sat on top of the cake or whatever it is that you're going to put it on. We're going to chop off the top so the top's quite flat, and then we're just going to make it a little bit thinner on the top. So once you've re-rolled, you might just need to trim off a little bit more on the top just to make it a little bit neater. We're just going to make some buttons. Now I have drawn a line down the middle of the dress that I've made, and I've just done that with the back of my knife that I used to cut my fondant with. So the small buttons that I'm rolling, I'm trying to get them all roughly the same size. I've just flattened them a little bit and then we're just going to stick that on with a little bit of water. So there we have the dress. Next we're going to make the bow. So we're just going to roll out some fondant quite thinly and we're going to trim it. Now this is about 1 centimetre in width. So it's not very big, it's just going to sit on top of the bunny's head. We're just going to straighten off the edges and trim off the sides, pinch it in the middle, and then we're just going to fold over the sides of the bow. So I'm just giving it a little time to dry, and whilst I'm doing that I'm just going to cut really thinly some extra bits of fondant just to go around the middle of the bow. So I like to do it where I've got one in front of the other. And so we're just tucking that in. If you need to, lift it up with a knife. Now whichever side's the biggest I always tend to put down first, and then just overlap the two and then just push them together. With the bit that we made to go around the bow, we're just going to pick that up and pop it on through the middle. And then just tuck under either side and trim off the excess. Now this is pretty much the type of method that I follow for any bow that I do of any size. So that's what you should have. We're just going to mark in some little lines either side of the bow, and then we can pop that to one side just to dry. So now we're going to move on to the feet and the arms. Now the feet are quite chunky because it's a rabbit. So once you've rolled your teardrop shape, we're going to push that against the bench and just making sure that the foot is pointier at the bottom than it is at the top. And we're going to cut that to give them kind of like short and stumpy legs, but still look quite cute. So you can see I'm just using my desk to flatten. We're going to pop in some marks for the feet and then chop off at an angle. Now as you can see, this is a little bit too long, and we're just going to make it a little bit thinner as it gets towards the body and trim it off again. So you can do it to whatever length you feel looks best, but I just felt really small and cute and chunky was best. So we're going to roll a little bit of fondant and fold it in half and then just pat it down, and that's going to give us like a love heart shape. And then just some pink balls for the foot. So this bit's optional, but I just felt like it just added to the cuteness of the bunny. Just using that to pick it up from the desk and just pushing it onto place, and then having the 3 balls around on each pad. You're going to do the same for the other side, and these are just going to be stuck on with a little bit of water. So for the hand, the same method. So pushing it down on the table to create the flat bit, cutting off at an angle, and then marking in the pads and then just pushing that on. So you want them so they're resting on the table or the cake board or the cake that you're going to do. So this is going to actually help hide where the insert of the wire goes into the bunny. So I've done both hands now and both feet, and I'm just going to stick these on with a little bit of water, like so. Pop that to one side just to dry while we're working on the head. Making sure that you glue any parts together. Now I use water, you could use edible glue if you wanted to, but if the paws touch the feet a little bit, you need to stick those together as well. It just gives more support. So for the head, I've rolled a circle, and then we're just going to flatten it off so it's kind of like oval shape. And then we're going to do another circle, another oval, and flatten that around the edges. Line up the middle, and this we're just going to stick on the face with a little bit of water. We're going to put it fairly close to the bottom of the face, and then just with a ball tool we're going to put in a mark on the top of the nose, and this is just going to give us space for our nose to sit. I'm using the same pink that I used for the dress and the paws, and just a little ball that's going to sit on top of there. So with the ball tool again, just at the side of the nose, we're going to make 2 more circles, and then just soften those out with your fingers. And then with some more white fondant, we're just going to pop in the white circles that are going to create the eyes, smoothing those over. And then with the ball tool, we're just going to stretch those out a little bit. And then with the smaller ball tool, we're going to go in and make a hole for the blues bits for the eyes to sit in. Again, you're going to use your ball tool just to stretch that out a little bit. I'm going to do that on either side. Try to get them roughly so they're the same size. Just pulling it out where you need to. So then we've got some royal blue sugar flare, and I'm just going to go around the edge and just paint in the blue. So I want the edges to be quite dark, and then I want the colour to become lighter as it comes into the centre of the eye. You also want to make sure that the top of the eye is darker than the bottom of the eye, because obviously the eye casts a shadow over itself, and so the top of the eye naturally would be darker and the bottom is lighter. When you're pulling the colours in, you want to wet your brush and then take off the majority of the water, and that way that it's not going to bleed too much when you pop it in. If you've gone over onto the white bit of the eye, if you just clean off your brush, put a little bit of water on, again dab it off a little bit, and then you could just clean up the area. And we're just going to roll out some small bits of black that are going to create the centre of the eye. Now you want to put these quite close to the centre, quite close to the centre of the face on both of the eyes. Just makes it look a little bit more cuter. So like so, just using your Dresden tool just to push it into place. Just cleaning up where you've gone over the outline. So some tiny little dots of white, and these are going to create the light reflection in the eye. So just flatten those off a little bit, and then just pop them in the same place on either eye. And next we're going to do the eyeliner. So rolling out some fondant, pointy at one side and thicker at the other. And then you're just going to lay this on top of the eye, obviously the pointy side coming into the middle and the thicker side going out to the outside. So I made the mistake of using fondant here instead of using sort of like either Saraceno modelling paste or Renshaw's modelling paste. It's quite flexible, is the fondant. It's easier to work with any of the modelling pastes when you're doing this bit. So you're just going to pop that on, push it down on everywhere that you want to stick, and then the bit at the side, if you leave that loose, because we're just going to trim that off to the side like so. And then just using your Dresden tool just to pull out that flicked area. And then we're just going to do that for both of the eyes. So I do have a Facebook group that you can all join, which is called Cake Nation Academy. We have a group of us in there where we share each other's work, and it's quite a nice group actually. I'm just in the process of starting some lives where I'll show you how to do certain things in more detail on there, so feel free to join. So here's what you should have so far. A cocktail stick in the body, and we're just going to stick that on with a little bit of water, like that. So next we're going to move on to the ears. So I've got the white fondant that I used before, and I'm just going to cut that into a rough bunny ear shape. Now this one's quite big, so we're going to trim that down. But whilst we've got that shape at the top that I want, we're going to trace out the other ear for the other side. And this one's quite a bit shorter, so I'm just going to chop off the side of that and make it a little bit thinner and come into more of a point at the bottom. And then we're just going to lay that on top of the other one and then recreate that same shape. Now for this one I chose to give one ear up and one ear down, but obviously you could change it to both ears down or both ears up if you wanted to. I've coloured some fondant in a really, really light pink, and then I'm just going to do a smaller shape and lay that on the inside. Like so, just trimming off any excess. And smoothing out the fondant. I find that when you smooth out the fondant on the side, it just gives it a little bit of a neater finish. With your Dresden tool, make a mark in the middle and then pull it together. So that's going to create the ear that's standing. So a cocktail stick through the head, wet it with a little bit of water, and then we're just going to pop that into place like so. So you might have to reposition it just to make sure that you're happy with the placement. Try to make sure that the cocktail stick goes through the bulk of the ear so that it's not visible. So same with the other side, but this one we're going to have laying down. So we're going to flatten it to the head, fold it in half a little bit and then flatten it to the head, like so. And then we're going to pop the bow in front of that ear, like that. So just make sure it's stuck down fully. So there's the bunny. We're just going to put a little bit of rose powder on the cheeks for a little bit of blush. So just dabbing it on very lightly. A little bit on the inside of the ears, just to add a bit of shading. So my legs have dropped off because it's not fully dry yet. We're just going to pop those back on there. So for the balloon I've got an egg shape. I think it's around about 1.5 inches, and I've just made a sort of like a crown out of the pink fondant, and we're just going to roll this on. So just pulling it down and smoothing it out, and then just rolling it between your hands, making sure that you've got water on the polystyrene ball for the fondant to stick to. The excess we're going to trim off, and just keep rolling it until you're happy with the shape. The bulk of the fondant will eventually come down to the bottom of the balloon that you're covering, so we can trim that off. You want to be careful not to rub it too much, because obviously the polystyrene ball can then become visible, and once that happens it's really hard to fix that. So once you've trimmed off the bulk of the excess, pop that to one side to dry. We've got some wire here, and I'm just going to wrap it around one of my serrat tools to create the spiral. We're going to trim off the excess, and then we're going to pop one side into the balloon. So we're going to stick that with a little bit of water. So you can see the bit that I've left coming out at the bottom, that bit we're going to stick with a little bit of water underneath the rabbit, and that's what's going to hold it up. So I've just got a little bit more of the pink fondant, and we're just going to make a concertina shape. So just folding it over, and this is going to create the bottom of the balloon. Trim off the excess. We're just going to pop that on where we've got the balloon and then sit that on top. So you might need to just smooth over the join, make sure that it's fully stuck down with a bit of water. And so this is the part at the bottom, that straight part that's going to stick into the bottom of the rabbit. Now for some reason that part didn't film, but here's the completed topper and the cake that it went on. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, please click the links on the screen now. Thanks for watching.